Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankara Sharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Okay, my friends, we are here to go into the Bliss Sheath of the big picture of Swami Paramarthananda. Last week we covered this this topic. Is page 50 on the ebook, the Bliss Sheath. So we we did cover this, but not entirely. So I said I would go back to finish it. Okay, so we know that the causal body is often referred as the body from where we experience peace and satisfaction and happiness. So how can it be possible? If there is no mental activities, there are no intellectual activities. There are no mental, emotional, intellectual activities in the causal body, because there is no reflection, there is no an I am, I exist thought relating to its environment. So how can something which is absent having an experience of Ananda? Why we call it Ananda if there is nobody there to really enjoy it? So this is one of my my inquiries when we come into the nature of the causal body. So is there really an entity? Why we say that there is a sense of limitless, a sense of happiness or bliss or ananta, if there is no entity. So, and then we know that the scriptures say that there is an entity, and this entity is referred to as pranya jiva, that aspect of our jiva nature that experience the absence of the I thought. And of course, if there is no I thought, there are no thoughts appearing. Now we see this I am, there is no thoughts appearing in regards to the objects around me. So if I am is not here, the other thoughts disappear. So the I thought and other thought, they somehow, they are absent. And there is no experiencing entity consciously experiencing anything, but there is a very, very extremely subtle entity, often referred as pranya-jiva, which somehow experience the absence of objects of experience, which seems to be a contradiction. So how can someone experience the absence of objects of experience? So it's so subtle that it's a little bit mind-boggling, because, what kind of experience is this one? But yet we know that we do experience something in deep sleep, and we like it, we appreciate it, we sometimes we even crave for, no, I really need a beautiful, deep sleep today with no thoughts, no dreams, and so on. So we know that we appreciate it, and we can only appreciate something if we have experienced that, right? So there is a level of experience there. There is a certain object of experience, which is the absence of name, colors, and forms. And in that kind of abstract level of experience, still we know that we experience because we are all the time wishing we could have a little bit more, and we may get even upset if something breaks our state of deep sleep. So there is something that is experienced this, and it's subconscious, we could say, or it is our causal body. We experience the absence of objects of experience through our causal body. So there is something that experience, that state, that order, that realm. And we could either say that, yes, there is a certain aspect of the jiva, state of mind, which is one of the three states, the awakening, the dream, and deep sleep. And it's aspect of my own jiva nature that experience the absence of object of experience. Now I can say, no, it's about me. How do you know that it's about you? Because consciousness is not an experiencing agent. Consciousness is not an experiencing knowing entity. You understand? So I know that my nature is akarta, and I know that my nature does not really experience anything, although it is the source of conscious existence that, once in contact with the superimposition of my Ishvara, all the objects of the universe, once in contact with these objects, I consciousness, I become, quote unquote, an experienced entity called my dear jivas. So we know that there is an experience. We know that my true nature does not experience anything. So it must be my self-experience on a very, very abstract way. And that's more to the point, technically speaking. Although sometimes our texts may say that that is an experience of the self. And why we say that that is an experience of the self, is the self experience itself. Because the nature of the self is limitlessness. What does that mean? It means that the nature of the self is one without a second. So it's non-dual, it's oneness. And then it's limitlessness, because there is nothing, from where it ends and then something else begins. So the nature of conscious existence, our true nature, is limitless. And limitlessness is something that feels good. How do you know that? Again, by observation of our own experience, because every time we feel limited, it does not feel good. And we want to remove that sense of limitation. In fact, most of everything we do is an attempt to remove this nagging sense of limitation. What is there limiting me? No, I'm limited by what I wish to have, but I do not. I'm limited by what I have, and I wish I could, remove or push away. So all of those things create this sense of limitation. And that is only possible when I'm interact with the Dharma field, where there are objects of experiencing bombarding me all the time, right? So when we go to the deep sleep state, we experience something which is the closest thing of our true nature, which is limitlessness. But the most intriguing thing is that in that state of deep sleep, we don't have the intellectual at our disposal to realize, that I am experiencing my limitless nature. You understand? Which is non-dual. Some of our texts say that the experience of Ananda, of the Bliss Sheath, is an indifferentiate ocean, or sea, or ocean of tamas. So in which there is no reflection, the reflection of consciousness, the I and that is not appearing, I is not appearing. So there is still a certain degree of experience, and it feels good. Why? Because it's the closest possible experience that we can have of our true nature. It is through the causal body experiencing its limitless nature in the absence of the duality, in the absence of this fundamental duality, I and that, this, that. So in the absence of duality, we feel what? We feel limitless. And then it feels good. So it's said to be the Anandamaya-kosha because it gives us that sense of limitlessness that we are seeking for by chasing objects in the world, running to gain and accomplish and keep and push away, and all these activities. We are trying to establish a sense of limitlessness, remove the sense of limitation. We are doing everything for that sake. We get that in our deep sleep, but as intriguing it may seem, and as sometimes even cruel, why in that state I could not have my intellect at my disposal to understand that I'm experiencing my non-dual nature. So, but the fact of the matter is that although I am experiencing my non-dual nature, I cannot recognize my non-dual nature. It's exactly like the children when they are babies, before they begin to develop a self-image and an ego. They live in a kind of Anandamaya state, but they don't recognize how happy they are. They don't recognize how blissful they are, because they do not have yet a sense of independent, singular identity, with my likes and dislikes. So the ignorance of the child is somehow a little similar to the ignorance of the deep sleep state. So we establish here how come we get this sense of bliss and limitlessness in the deep sleep state, and why it is an experience that is so close to my own nature, although my own nature cannot be experienced, but it can be known by the means of the experience I get in deep sleep state. It's not by chance that Vedanta brings about the three states and tries to unfold this experience of the deep sleep. So we are there enjoying. We enjoy the absence of the ego, the absence of duality, the absence of otherness, and all the problems and complexities that come with duality, as we know. So the key here is the bliss sheath is associated with the causal body, but when I live in the world in which I can experience and gain knowledge, and that includes self-knowledge, when I'm experiencing, interacting with the world with the purpose of growing and extracting wisdom, more wisdom, when I'm doing that, I have my intellect with me, without which I cannot function in the world. So this Anandamaya-kosha is meaningless in the deep sleep state. Why? I don't have my intellect. It's meaningful in my awakened state. But in my awakened state, I don't experience much of my bliss because my intellect is being operated by likes and dislikes, vasanas, which is going to disturb the intellect and make the disturbed intellect, miss out on its own limitless nature, limitless sense of completion, and so on. So I'm saying that because we need to draw the parallels between this Ananda that we experience in deep sleep, knowing that there is something we can learn there, but knowing that the goal is to have that experience in my awakened state, not even in samadhi state, because nirvikalpa samadhi is a state in which the intellect as well is absent. Therefore, no knowledge, no self-knowledge is really at our disposal. You know? Although it can be gained in retrospective, we can, look back and retrospective, we can draw some understandings, and among many, the understanding of one's full, whole, and complete nature, non-dual nature. So the bottom line is that we need to bring this Bliss sheath, we have to somehow pull it from the causal body and the deep sleep state and bring it to our waking state. In the dream state, we don't have much chance of any real bliss, because a lot of the times, most of the times, the dreams we have, they are just projections of our vasanas. And whenever we have vasanas in operation, we are not really fulfilled. We are not really happy and satisfied because, vasanas are desires and aversions that are all the time, trying to gain or trying to avoid and so on, trying to control. So it's not much fun dreams. Although here and there, we have some beautiful, celestial and enlightened dreams or insightful dreams. They can happen as well, depend on the nature of our vasana loads, right? That which is there sitting in our causal body. So our goal is to bring this bliss, this ananda, to our day-to-day experience of life, which happens in the awakening state when we are interacting with the world. And how are we going to do that? We need somehow to fake the deep sleep state. How are we going to reproduce the deep sleep state in the awakening state? In the deep sleep state, our likes and dislikes, they are neutralized, they are suppressed, they are non-existent. So we need to create that mental environment in such a way that in our awakened state, we have also a mind, to the best of our, to the best of our purity of mind, it is freed from compulsive likes and dislikes, because that's what is there, and that's what is giving me the sense of limitlessness and bliss. And then in the awakened state, I need to find that kind of mental environment so that I can experience the bliss of my own nature reflected in a positive way, because in the deep sleep, it's not reflect. Consciousness is absorbed by tamas. So now in my awakened state, my subtle body is dominated by sattva. And then when it shines in sattva guna, and then it shines as the potential for knowledge, for self-knowledge. So, and then now I have an environment, a mental environment that is propitious for self-knowledge and the experience of Ananda. Why? Because my mind is alert, okay? I am awake, my intellect is at my disposal, but because my mind is more or less like sleeping while awake, sleeping while awake, I experience this peace, satisfaction, and clarity of mind, because now I have the intellect at my disposal. You understand, Elizabeth?
Yes, I do.
You understand, Karen? Okay. Let's see if there is something more I could say about that. We cannot say that we always experience this bliss in the awakened state. No, we cannot say, because in the awakened state, the mind is going to be under the spell of some sort of ignorance on various degrees of likes and dislikes, desires and aversions. Even in the dream state, we may be pledged with nightmares, as we know. As I said, in the dream state, most of the time, it is our vasanas, our likes and dislikes, that somehow they wake up in the middle of the night, in the middle of our deep sleep, to exhaust itself, to catch up, to project itself. The deep sleep state, and only the deep sleep state, enables us to experience happiness in a uniform manner. This is very nice. So this happiness, which is really uniform and constant for a short period of time, or a few hours, howsoever. Sometimes it's going to be interrupted by dreams, and sometimes even interrupted by the awakened state in the middle of the night. So, but generally speaking, it's only in the deep sleep state that we experience this bliss in a uniform manner. Okay, but again, what is the good, besides the fact that it's very refreshing and rejuvenating? What is the good of experience this Anandamaya-kosha, experience this bliss, this sense of limitlessness, if I don't have my intellect to recognize my true nature as non-dual consciousness, non-dual limitless nature? So we keep entering and coming out, and we never become wiser unless we have the scriptures of Vedanta that can help us to understand that experience. And then in retrospect, we can extract some knowledge, understanding of my nature through the three states, more specifically in that deep sleep state. Sleep is universally loved, and it is for this reason that nobody has to be woken up in the middle of the night. Therefore, the causal body is known as the Bliss Sheath. As we know, the three bodies, they exist within every one of our human experience. All the three bodies, they just exist simultaneously. The subtle body, the causal body being the more subtle, it's there, backing up the subtle, and the subtle activating and backing up the gross body. So the three bodies are there. So when we are in the awakened state, still we have the subtle body. We still have the causal body behind us, and the causal body is what allows us to sleep for the world while awake. So this is something that Papaji used to teach us, not without much elaboration. He used to say, when the whole world is awake, you sleep. You sleep for the world while you're awake. What it means to sleep to the world while awake? It means that the world does not cause any longer in me that magnetic pull of desires and aversions. You understand? If I'm not tyrannically under this power called desires and aversions in respect to the object, and then I can see the world, but the world does not impact my mind, and I can experience peace and satisfaction in spite of the world, in spite of my awakening state. So the real deal is to sleep to the world while awake, meaning to say, I'm not subject to the avidya that compels my mind to be disturbed during the awakening state, trying to accomplish, gain, retain, and reject things. If any questions come up, please, feel free to interact with me. Or any insights, any help is appreciated. Collectively, the three bodies, the three states, and the five sheaths are called anatima, which literally means the not self. So now we're going to enter this conversation about the not self, because we will begin we are coming to the end of this booklet, and we're going to finally close it talking about the self. So we have been going through all aspects of what we call our human experience as the not self. So there is something about our human experience that it's not the not self, and there is something about our human experience that is the self. So the three bodies which are made out of matter, subtle and gross matter, and super subtle causal matter, the three bodies, the three states that originate from these three bodies, the five sheaths, which are different functions within these three bodies, they are all called anatima, which means literally the not self. These bodies and these states are anatima because they are objects known to consciousness, us. So we need to understand this notion of self and not self. So as we know, everything that is superimposed on the self is resolved in the self as the self, therefore everything is the self. But the self is none of these superimpositions of name, colors, and forms. So we need to understand what is the not self as these objects that are known to us, so that we can clear this confusion between my true self and the objects that occur within me. And the objects, when we start doing this discrimination on a more subtle level, the objects with which I tend to confuse myself are my very experiences. The five sheaths are different levels of human experience that somehow end up defining myself. I wrap up my sense of identity through my experiences and through my notions and knowledge and understandings and determinations. So I get a sense of ego, of identity, individual identity through this interaction experience. But all these experience are objects. So the three bodies are objects. And then we say, okay, the physical body, I have no problem because I can objectify my physical body through my sense. My sense can objectify, see, touch, and feel, smell sometimes. So, and then I have no problem to see the physical body as an object. And then when we come to the mind, we say, okay, now the mind as well, it's very clear to me because I can observe my mind. Sometimes my mind drives me crazy. We say something sometimes. So I know that it's something seen by me. So therefore, I'm not my mind. The mind is an object as far as thought, which is one of the aspects of the mind. And then when we look at, okay, but how about your feelings and emotions? I say, I don't know about that, because my feelings and emotions, they are an experience. They are not really an object, but they are more like an experience, okay? And it feels like me. When we feel love, when we feel anything, when we have our emotions, we easily get identified with them until we develop subtlety, intellectual subtlety, to understand that these emotions and feelings and thoughts, they are all objects that occur within me, but I'm none of those. And then we're moving into the different functions of the 5 sheaths, and then we move into the Anandamaya-kosha, which is this experience of limitless peace and satisfaction that occurs in the sleeping state and even in the waking state when our mind is resolved. And then Vedanta is going to come, okay, now you have a very sattvic mind, you experience in samadhi, but you are not that. That is, again, an object of experience. You are experiencing, Anandamaya-kosha. It's very hard to reject Anandamaya-kosha, isn't it, Mark? Yeah?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, because the ego, they wants to wrap its self-image around something that is greatly appreciated by all. So if you are radiant and happy and peaceful and beautiful, state, and then of course it's going to give you a sense of someone highly developed or highly spiritually, and so on. So Vedanta is the one the one kind of spiritual philosophy that smashes everything, including our identification with Anandamaya-kosha. Yeah? So it's very hard to see Anandamaya-kosha, these experiences, especially when we are awakening, we are in the awakened state and the experience Anandamaya-kosha. It's very hard to see that as the not self, but Vedanta goes all the way, rejecting everything so that we can extract our truest essence, our true nature, our true identity as consciousness alone, in which everything appears and disappears, including Anandamaya-kosha. Right, Karen? That's why not many people feel attracted to Vedanta. These bodies and these states are anathema because they are known to us. We can be aware of them, therefore they cannot be the self. Once we have established this and looked at the objective realm in some detail, so how are we going to be spending our time looking into mithya? Oh, no, it's just mithya. Forget about that. No, we need to look into mithya. We need to look into the not self, because the self and not self got mixed up and confused. We need to undo this confusion, and then we have to isolate the not self, isolate the self, look into the not self so that we are not fooled, deceived again and again, and falling for the confusion superimposed by avidya. Then we have to do that. We have to look objectively into the realm of not self and in some detail so that we understand. You understand? So I have been identified, isolate the not self, which is very simple. It's anything that is known, perceived, experienced by me. And I have identified, isolate the self as that which is the nature of the seer, the perceiver, the knower, the very nature of the seer, the perceiver, and the knower. Once we look into the realm of mithya, of the not self in great detail, we come to realize that there has to be another factor involved. For any object to exist, there must be a subject. And that subject, this absolute subject, is called Atma, the self, which is limitless conscious existence. In which all objects arise in which all objects subside, this conscious existence is the substratum of Nitya, is the basis, is the light of the illuminator, is that which pervades everything, never doing anything, never modifying, upon accommodating everything. And that is seen as the light of consciousness, or the space of the space, that pervades everything, or the light that illumines and reveals everything, never ever being affected by what it either accommodates as space or illumines and reveals as light. So we then go into the self, the following page. We have then established that the three bodies and the five sheaths are composed of matter, whether it is gross, subtle, or causal matter. We know from experience that matter is an inert principle. The standpoint of modern science concurs. The body is made up of various elements such as carbon, iron, calcium, and so on. These elements are inert in nature. The scriptures and science both agree that the body is composed of inert elements, and by reasoning, it should therefore also be inert in nature. So it's such a simple conclusion. We know that the body, and science itself agrees that the body is made out of matter, inert matter, energy. And then we've seen the scope, not we've seen the body, but somehow we've seen the scope of this body-mind complex. Consciousness appears in the scene, and then we have our human consciousness showing up. So this human consciousness, it should either come from matter, because it is in contact with the body-mind. It is illumining the body-mind. It is shining with the body-mind. So what is the usual conclusion that people take? No, if this consciousness appears within the body-mind complex, it must be originated by the body-mind complex. Anybody is going to be fooled by Maya and will believe that consciousness is a byproduct of matter. But then Vedanta comes and says, how can something which is filled with consciousness be originated by inert matter? They belong to two different realms or orders. One is the inert matter, and the other is consciousness itself, that in no possible way could be originated by inert matter, because the nature of inert objects is such that no consciousness develops. And then where is consciousness coming from? So it does not come from the physical body. And then we need to begin understanding the subtle body. Now, what is the subtle body? The name says it is a very subtle body. It is an invisible body. And we understand that. We understand that we have a mind, we have a memory system, we experience emotions, we have an intellect that we use to the best of our ability. We know that there is this aspect of our human experience, which is not the body. So with time, we do not call this subtle body or this mind, intellect, and ego. We do not tell them that they are consciousness. With time and wisdom and spiritual punya, merits, we come to the scriptures. The scriptures make a clear distinction. It says, no, this is not consciousness. This is the subtle body. And the subtle body is a great reflector of consciousness. Oh, Nice. So makes sense. Huh? Consciousness is coming from the subtle body. Yeah, subtle body produces consciousness. And then Vedanta say, oh my God, no, not that one. You know, this consciousness is not a byproduct of the subtle body either. It does not come from the gross matter, does not come from the subtle matter. Consciousness is an independent factor that somehow has an affinity with subtle bodies. And every time it pervades the subtle body, it shines with reflected consciousness. How about that? Huh? Oh, makes total sense. Huh? Where is consciousness coming from? Huh? It's something totally free and independent of the three bodies. It does not come from the causal body either. Huh? Which is a totally limitless nature of its independent nature, in which the world is manifest through the power of Maya, and then the three bodies. The three bodies constitute the living creatures, which includes also the vegetal realm and the animal and the human. And in there we have consciousness shining, because consciousness is all pervasive. It's everywhere as the existence, as the light of consciousness. And then every time somehow there is this organism called a subtle body, it shines with its own very nature, which is conscious existence. And every human being knows, oh yes, of course, I am conscious and I exist. So therefore, consciousness is not a byproduct of matter. If the body is made up of inert matter, in the same way as rocks, wood, plants, trees, metal are made of inert matter, how is this body, this physical body? I was jumping the gun, I was pulling to making a comparison with the subtle body. How can this physical body be different from the physical external world we experience? The physical external world is made out of the elements, matter. My physical body is made out of the elements. From the elements, this body came. To the elements, this body is going to go. So in which way this body can be different from that tree? That's why one comes to the understanding that everything is Brahman and I am the tree, because I am Brahman. I am this, I am that, I am the walls, because everything is just consciousness, existence appearing as inert objects due to the lack of a subtle body. If the chair would have a subtle body, it would be able to say, no, you are too fat. I'm not going to allow you to sit upon me. But no, fortunately, the chairs, they do not have a conscious mind. They don't have that reflection. So it cannot be different from the world of matter we experience out there. What then is the principle that makes the body alive, sentient, and conscious? So what is this principle? So we already have the term that it's not the subtle body, because subtle body, again, it's matter. And we already have the term that the subtle body, although it's matter, it serves as a great reflector, the same way Maya, the most primordial energy, Prakriti, nature of the universe is Prakriti, it's Maya. Maya serves as the macrocosmic reflecting medium to project Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagat. The universe comes within this reflection medium, reflected medium. And so what is the principle that makes this body alive, sentient, and conscious? So what makes this body alive is a combination. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into this passage here. What makes the body alive is fundamentally consciousness in association with our subtle body. consciousness cannot really make the physical body alive. Consciousness is going to concede life and existence. Actually, consciousness is going to conceive. To be alive is more in regards to the physical organisms. We know some physical organisms are dead, some are alive, and some are really like a rock. They are inert. So are they alive? Yes, they are alive because the planet is alive. And then if you find a little rock, the rock is alive, although the rock does not move around and does not produce thoughts. Okay, so everything is alive, but the physical body is alive by the power of the subtle body. Because for the body to be, the physical body, the gross body to be alive, it needs to have the entire functions of the subtle body, beginning with the Anandamaya-kosha. Pranamaya, the vital, intelligent air, is going to activate the body and manage those physiological functions in the way that the organs of actions and the internal organs and everything is functioning. So we need the pranas there. So the subtle body is going to enlivening the physical body, and make this physical body sentient and conscious. So in which way the subtle body is going to activate and then make the physical body conscious? Is because the subtle body is not only made out of energy, meaning to say pranas, vital, intelligent airs, but it's also made of what made it produce what more? It produced not only this vital air, but produce the human consciousness, which is by nature consciousness, because of its reflection, its reflective nature, this medium, like a mirror-like, it's going to produce consciousness. And then it's what is the principle that makes the subtle body conscious in association with the physical body, and is going to make it alive and dynamically moving around. It's going to activate the body. All of that is due to consciousness and consciousness alone. Consciousness has remained the biggest mystery throughout time. This is very nice. Consciousness is really a mystery. We must come to Vedanta to resolve this mystery. Otherwise, there will be always discussions and confusions and all these things we hear in the New Age or esoteric circles around the world, talking about consciousness. They are talking about the mind. Consciousness itself has remained the biggest mystery. And since mind is a changing phenomenon and everybody experiences mind differently, and then nobody is going to get to any conclusion about what the mind is. Therefore, it remains really through time a mystery, because never people comes to the bottom of the question, of the inquiry, and understand that consciousness is not the mind. Mind is not consciousness. Therefore,
I have a question,
See.
or a question or discussion. Just, and I guess we talked about this before, but just in this context of talking about, live bodies and a being that move around other than like a rock. But then there's the animals like the deer that run around in my front yard here. That, the point of the, like, brain size or whatever that distinguishes the difference between us as a living being and the deer out in the yard, having a subtle body. You were saying how all beings have a subtle body, but I guess just to distinguish the difference between us as jivas and the deer outside moving around, they have their instincts and reactions, but they don't have the intellect that we do. So is that, I mean, I guess it's brain size, but then on a spiritual level, just to differentiate that.
Yeah, no, I mean, we Vedanta does not go into those aspects which belongs more to anatomy or science, you know. I mean, how this consciousness becomes complex enough to produce thoughts and discrimination and determination and so on. So we don't really go there looking into the brain, which is the instrument in which, you know, consciousness produces thought. The brain is just an instrument like all the other instruments, and it is a physical organ. It's not a real organ, it's a physical instrument. You understand? So we look at it as less complex subtle bodies, less complex in the sense that they are not intelligent living organisms that produce a clear I am, I exist, and I perceive and I know my environment. So these other creatures, they respond to their environment, which is a clear indication that there is a consciousness operating there. There is a reflection of consciousness operating there. But it's all in automatic. This is the important thing. It's all instinctive. It's all within one's program. Every one of these insects and all other creatures, it just follows their program, their instinct. I have some animals here that keep eating my eggs. They are small, it's a mixture, a small crocodile with a snake. The head is like a snake, the rest of the body is kind of a small crocodile, and they love eggs. So I try to have a few conversations with them to ask them, please, you know, don't eat my eggs. But they don't understand that, you know, and then we scare them away. You know, we do. The people here was asking me a few times, so we're gonna need to kill them now. So I'm waiting someone to make a trap so that I can catch them, because I had some good conversation with them, but they don't understand. They just follow their program, their nature. So now I have to take them and then drive them in another environment where they can live more widely without having to rely on human beings, chickens, and eggs. So all creatures are going to follow their nature, and they don't really think and discriminate because their subtle body or their intellect is not fully developed, okay? So we look from this angle because Vedanta is mostly interested in the subtle phenomenal world, okay? How the physical body. Science is mainly interested in the anatomy of the physical body. They are all the time cutting and analyzing and looking. So they are materialists. They are interested in cutting the body and trying to understand the body in its most gross level. Vedanta is more interested to understand what? The functions of the mind, because it's in the mind that the way out of samsara is possible. It's not in the physical body, okay? This question of yours is, I cannot answer because I'm not a scientist, but I can give you the Vedantic answer that it's more rudimentary, subtle bodies, and they do not produce the same level of intelligence. I mean, they say that some animals seem to be intelligent. We know that there are some very, very intelligent animals, and it's no wonder that animals are intelligent, because this is an intelligently designed universe, and all creatures are very intelligent. I mean, I have so many ants here that it's a big fight because they eat things that they should not be eating. They eat my roses, my trees, and so on. And what can I do? They are intelligent. They know how to, find its way and come in the middle of the night when nobody sees them. And everything is intelligent. But one thing is to be intelligent design, and another thing is to have that reflection that occurs in the subtle body that say, oh, I am and I know that I am. I exist and I know that I exist. And here I go, trying to understand what the heck I'm doing here. Yeah. So the animals do not have this concern, right? But they are intelligent design. Okay, they do things incredible. They know what to. These ants, they are amazing, very highly intelligent. Consciousness has remained the biggest mystery throughout time. Theories have been put forth from the earliest philosophers to the most renowned modern day scientists, but none of these scientists have satisfactorily answered this age-old question. And why? Because they take the reflect consciousness, means to say the mind, to be consciousness, and then nobody's going to agree. No? Because everybody has a different experience and observation of mind. Okay, oh no, consciousness is just, they talk about mind. So if we talk about the mind, we're never going to come to a consensus because every mind is going to be different. Vedanta teaches that consciousness is not, in fact, a property of the physical body and neither of the subtle body, as we have established, because both the physical body and the subtle body are matter, and matter is intrinsically inert in nature. So therefore, consciousness cannot be a byproduct of these two bodies. How can something inert produce something that is not inert? Neither is consciousness part of the body. So consciousness is not part, property, and a product of any one of the three bodies. Consciousness is not PPP, part, product, and property. It's not a quality or property, it's not a part, and it's not a byproduct. Okay, consciousness is an individual, independent principle that pervades matter and expands, infinitely as the substratum of the universe. It is not originated by any matter. But
What did you, I was just going to say, what was PPP? What does that stand for again?
the PP is a teaching that says that it's an easy way to remember this teaching. It is not part. Consciousness is not a part of something. It is a wholeness, partless, or a partless whole. Yeah? It's non-dual, and it's not something which has parts. It's not something that has properties, because if you have parts, and then you may have different properties. Consciousness does not have any part. And even being non-dual, it does not have any property, because properties belongs to matter, belongs to energy. You understand? Consciousness is that which is free of parts, free of properties, and it's not a product. Ah, no, consciousness is not part, it's not a property, but it is a byproduct. You know, when you mix up a few things, when you mix up these three bodies, and then poof, out of inert three bodies comes consciousness. No, it's not a byproduct or a product, the PPP. Consciousness, Vedanta says that consciousness is a factor that is independent of the three bodies, but which pervades the three bodies, apparently lending life and sentience and consciousness and existence to the body-mind complex. Okay, so this life and sentience and consciousness and existence belongs to consciousness and consciousness alone, Consciousness does not depend on the three bodies. It's free, full, whole, and complete. But somehow, every time it is in contact, every time Maya superimpose these objects, known as jivas, consciousness somehow apparently produce life and sentience to these living creatures. Is it clear, Karen? This consciousness is called Atma, or simply the self, our true limitless nature. We need to claim the self to be our true limitless nature. We are trying to distinguish the self from the not self, and then we need to claim the self as our true limitless nature. Okay, I'm gonna go for my lunch. Time has changed, and now I'm having a later lunch here. We meet again soon on next Monday. Good Thanksgiving for you guys in the United States. And I enjoyed my Thanksgiving there for about 10 years. It became part of my culture, United States. I mean, it was interesting. I saw, and in the beginning I was resisting that culture, and then years when I was feeling, and then when I saw, I was feeling to be an American and getting integrated in the local culture. Now I'm losing that a bit, but that's 7 years away. But I appreciate that. And we meet again soon.
And Arlindo, I'm sorry that I understand more than I can explain. And I feel sorry that you have to do almost everything by yourself. I wish I could explain it, but I can't. I'm sorry. But I feel I live it.
Wonderful. That's the most important thing. Vedanta, once we know what we know to be our true nature, Vedanta is more like a music that we enjoy, right?
Yeah, you can't lose it anymore. You can't lose it.
Yeah, and then we lose to Vedanta as a music, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Arlindo. Great satsang.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. See you soon again. Namaste.
Okay.
Arrivederci.
Namaste.